everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show Find Her Football World Cup Group Previews. I got all the words out. It's always a mouthful. I, as always, am Sarah, and I am here with the one and only Tim. Tim, thanks for being here.
Anytime. It's always a ton of fun, especially with the group that we have today.
Always. And Allie is taking a little vacation, and that is why they are not joining us. But Tim and I have a plenty to say here about Group F. Group F is Brazil, France, Jamaica, and Panama. I know you're very excited to talk about this. I'm very excited to talk about this. I mean, France and Brazil alone, but you add in Jamaica, and I think that's a different element to it that people aren't expecting.
For sure, for sure. I mean, like you mentioned, France and Brazil have definitely created a rivalry over the past few years. Definitely have had many games against each other. Brazil has traveled and played in the Coupe de France, I believe it's called, or Tournoi de France, something like that. Mm-hmm. They've played each other in some of these major tournaments and had some pretty electric, high-scoring, high-flying showdowns. And like you said, Jamaica could really be a wrench in all of this, potentially, but we'll see.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that. These, aside from Panama, these teams know each other not well. Brazil and Jamaica were in the same group in the 2019 World Cup. They haven't faced each other since. Brazil won that matchup 3-0, but that was, of course, 4 years ago. And then France and Brazil also faced each other in the 2019 World Cup in the round of 16. France advanced, but that was in extra time on a goal in the 106th minute. So, again, these teams familiar with each other, maybe, what's the term for it? Some crosses to bear? I don't know. Is that religious? Probably. I should not say that. Some, you know what? I'm hungover. I'm not even going to try to find the words. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah. And I believe that was the game too, where Marta had that post-game speech that went viral. That was just like really like prompting the next generation of players to like, this is the time, like be true to yourself, like be the best you can, like really was one of the most iconic off the field moments in women's football in the last 5 years or so. And we've seen that. We've seen that now. There's some really young, really exciting Brazilian players who maybe were inspired by that message and are now here today. And I'm excited to maybe talk about some of those players.
Oh, wow. Tim, I'm so glad you reminded me of that. I forgot that was the game that happened after. That speech gave me chills and made me cry. I've watched it, obviously, incredibly a ton of times since. Yeah, and you know, we're gonna save Brazil for the end, but it's funny because when she made that speech, I think we were all thinking, in part of the speech is, you know, there's not always gonna be a Marta, there's not always gonna be a Cristiane. I think we were all thinking like, yeah, but who is there? And the strides that they have made in 4 years, just to do some foreshadowing, Brazil is, I'm excited to talk about them. Everybody should just push pause on this episode right now if you don't know the Marta speech that we're talking about, and just go to YouTube, search it, watch it, and come back to this because, oh my God, chills. Absolute chills.
The level of emotion was just, I was just so moved and so inspired. And, you know, it was a speech where it was like, is this the end? Are we ever going to see Marta? Like, is this her signaling that maybe this is her last major international tournament? And like you said, we'll get to it a little bit more when we talk about Brazil, but it seems like she is likely going to be on the plane to Australia. So really excited for that. She's been having a good season for Orlando thus far. So I love watching these legends play, like the Martas, the Christine Sinclairs, some of these players who this likely will be their last World Cup, unfortunately. And it's been such a blessing to watch these players play over the past decade plus.
I feel like we're just automatically getting into Brazil. We're not. We're saving it for last, everybody. But I feel like what's so fun about Brazil is that actually Marta is like the 10th thing that comes to mind now when I think about Brazil. So much to say. All right, this group, France, Brazil, Jamaica, Panama. We are going to do France first. This is really fun. This roster just recently dropped. This is the only roster that we actually have confirmation for in this group so far. The other three teams have yet to announce their finalized squad. But France is obviously a huge one for many reasons. But I think we need to start with the fact that there's a new head coach in Hervé Renard, if I pronounce that with my French accent correctly. And obviously, Wendy Renard, Marie Antoinette Katoto, and Diani had all three said that they would not play. For former head coach Corinne Diacre, who was let go, thank goodness, by the FFF. And now these three players obviously have said that they will play for this new head coach in Renard. The FFF still massive issues. But we have to touch on the fact, before we even get to the players, obviously this new head coach is a huge boost and positive, because it's going to be a huge mental boost and positive for the players. But he hasn't been with this team for a long time. How much is that really going to affect France tactically?
I really don't think it's going to affect them tactically very much. This is a team that kind of already knows who they are. They've been playing together for a long time. A lot of these players either currently play for Lyon or PSG, or at one time played for Lyon or PSG. They're very familiar with each other. If I was this new head coach, I would say essentially to the players, I'm here to help you be who you want to be. You all know who you are. You all know what style you want to play. I'm here to help you really embody that and help you really achieve what you want to achieve. That's the approach that he should be taking. I think that's the approach he will take. Granted, I don't know that much about this coach. What I've heard is that this was a very high profile coach who's been very successful in the men's game, particularly with bringing teams who are maybe underdogs and elevating them to the next level. And so I think that that kind of potential is really exciting. That being said, coaching a men's team versus coaching a women's team does not necessarily always translate super well. There can be a learning curve in both directions for coaches going from one game to the other, back and forth. So I think that this was probably the best signing that they could have made for their head coach. I'm really excited for this coach, but time will tell if it was really the right choice or not. I mean, maybe this is a good time to talk about the injuries that are plaguing this
Yeah,
team.
let's talk about the players, starting with Katoto.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of players who either were injured or absent for different reasons, or still are, or are kind of working their way back in. And Katoto is really headlining for these players. This is your starting central striker, one of the best, top, definitely for me, a top five number nine in the world when healthy. And missing a presence like that, who at a very young age has just shattered scoring records in her country, is also for such a young player is a really, really good leader on the team. We saw that with the messaging and with how she united with Wendy Renard, someone who is a major club rival of hers. But also what we've heard about her being on PSG is that she's a huge, huge leader for that team. So missing her is going to be such a negative, unfortunately. And then I
Yeah.
also have to mention Delphine Cascarino,
Mm-hmm.
uh, a major injury just a few months ago, definitely not making it on this squad. But yeah, so Delphine Cascarino being injured is also a huge drawback. This is a really, for a young winger, a player who has tons of experience in major matches, many Champions League wins for someone of her age, is on the right wing, is someone who has so many different tools to really attack you with. She has the creativity. She can play more direct. She can play more hold up. She can pull you out wide and beat you one on one. She can cut inside and take a like a shot from distance. A player who really has all these tools, and so missing her as well is going to be another huge negative for this front line. But what's most interesting for me is that this France team is just loaded up front. That
Loaded.
they still have so many options. It
Yeah.
was interesting to me that they don't have. I don't know if these two players are injured, but they were omitted from the squad. Lyon's Melvin Millard, as well as PSG's Sandy Baltimore. Two more really, really good attackers who are absent from the squad. But you still look at this forward line and you think, wow, they have a group of players that can really, really punish you.
Yeah, they really, really do. I mean, it obviously headlines with Diani followed by Les Sommer, but frankly, I couldn't agree more. There's what, six players rostered as forwards, and all of them can do incredible damage. And even with the injuries that you just mentioned, you look through this list and it is just star after star. And this is the classic France team that really has played together for a long time, you know, with Cascarino, the defender Cascarino, in the back line with Renard, obviously Amandine Henry. Could this be her last World Cup? Specifically with France, she recently came over to Angel City. She'll get a bunch of minutes before she heads over to the World Cup. That'll be great. And I have to say, I guess I want to spend a moment on Les Sommer, because it's not that she hasn't been great for the national team, but she hasn't been a standout. And I think potentially with the loss of Katoto, they do need her to step up. France, weirdly, we just mentioned they have so many ways to hurt you, but you look through their previous results, and in a surprising twist, the trend for France really is that they'll shoot a lot, but have very few goals to show for it. And that's not a way to advance in the World Cup.
Yeah, and I think that's a telltale sign of coaching, really setting up your players well to create high efficiency chances. I think that having a new coach really re implementing an actual strategy that the players are actually on board with is going to really benefit their offensive efficiency. So I'm hoping that some of those woes they've had in the past and some of those struggles are erased. You made a great point though that this coach came on very recently, so will he really have time to implement new strategies and really meld these different groups of players together? I'm not entirely sure, but they definitely have the players to do it. You also mentioned Henri and Les Sommer. I do think it's so significant that this new coach has kind of brought these players back from the cold. I would definitely throw Wendy Renard in there. I would also throw Amel Majri in there as well,
Mm-hmm.
back from maternity leave, is up and running now, kind of also part of that age of players, maybe on the younger side of that age of players, but was part of that Lyon setup. And so he's bringing these players back into the fold, creating that strong leadership structure, and then also bringing in some youthful players to kind of help build for the future as well. I think the balance on this team is really, really strong.
Yeah. You look at their Euros performance, I just have to say, like, in terms of we're looking at the trends for them, and not just Euros, but, you know, Euros through today, they'll go up early and then they'll leak late goals. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll leak and then lose, but they still are leaking goals. And that's something I think for everybody listening, got to keep an eye on that for France, especially in this group and potentially advancing forward. I mean, Brazil is a team that will never go away. And that's a team that France can absolutely leak goals against in the dying minutes. But we can't talk about France without unfortunately just talking about, you're talking about like melding this team together. France is another team that's just like, we know that they have the talent. It's a question of, can they gel? Can they be a team, really? And that's the big question here. How do you see this going for France, really? Because I feel like we're all going into this being like, which France is going to show up? Is it going to be the one that we saw in 2019 where they were unlucky to get knocked out by the US in, you know, the quarters, when frankly that should have been the final, right? They should have been in the final. Or is it going to be the France that we saw in the Euros that was disjointed and disappointing?
Well, I'm hoping for the former, to be honest, because I think this is such a fun team on paper, right? You look at like for me, the past few years, their biggest question has been in the center midfield. Who are you how are you building those connections and building that bridge? How are you connecting because you look at their defenders and they have some great defenders, they have some great forwards, but the midfield was always the missing piece for me. But Gracia has really stepped into her own. They've brought Kenza Dali back in from the dark, and she's been having an outstanding season for Villa. I'm really high on Sandy Toletti, who has been having a really, really strong season for Real Madrid. She kind of got brought into the setup a few years ago after the 2019 World Cup and has been slowly kind of building into a major midfield player for this team. We mentioned Henri back. So I think now that their midfield has more options and is a little bit more settled, that I think they can do it. I think they can be a top team at this tournament. We talk in the club land about how you kind of get that new manager bump a little bit, and I'm hoping that that is also applicable in this situation.
Do you have anything else to add about France?
I mean, I'm just so excited for some of these young players, like we all know about Selma Basha and how electrifying she is with the ball at her feet at the outside back position. They have players like this who are these young upcoming stars, frankly, and they have the like Vicky Besho, same thing, really, really fun young players. And then you have the mix of senior players as well. I'm so excited to see this team play. I think if they can put together and unite behind this new coach, that they can be a major player in this tournament.
I totally agree. I hope that they can come together because I think that they're going to be one of the more fun teams to watch in this tournament. And specifically, we'll talk about them versus Brazil when we come on to Brazil. But in terms of playing style, that matchup is just going to be like chef's kiss. So good.
Must see, one of my top five must see group stage games of the tournament, hands
Hands
down.
down. Hands down. I will be up at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, whenever that game is live, because I'll be watching that live. All right. Let's move into Jamaica. Jamaica, I'm going to go through some background on this team because I was doing research and I just think that it's worth noting because I think that we do get in a great way lost in the fact that this is now the World Cup. The teams have expanded. We're seeing a lot more teams entering for the first time. We're seeing a lot of teams raising their level. The gap is closing. I think Jamaica is a really great reminder of where we still are in a way. Jamaica, this is their second consecutive World Cup. This is their second ever World Cup that they've entered as a nation. Obviously, they qualified in 2019. Some history on Jamaica. In 2010, the Jamaican Football Federation cut the senior women's program, as well as obviously the women's Olympic program. They stated a lack of funding, but obviously they're where the funding comes from, so that's disappointing. And then 4 years later, in 2014, Bob Marley's daughter, Cedella Marley, helped with the fundraising efforts, and finally, the team were able to raise $50,000 to pay for practices, travel expenses, housing, nutrition, equipment, so on and so forth, just so they could prepare for the 2014 CONCACAF. And in doing so, they obviously played the CONCACAF. They did not qualify for the 2015 Women's World Cup. This team was unranked between 2011 and 2017. In other words, like not even recognized by FIFA as a senior women's national team. And then finally in May 2018, this was the first time that the team assembled for 2 years. And they ended up in May of 2018 advancing through a long series of obviously wins, losses, playoffs, and everything. But they advanced and they qualified for the 2019 World Cup after not playing together whatsoever for 2 years. And frankly, considering that, they did really damn well in that 2019 World Cup. So this is a federation and this is a team that has a very new history, if you will, an extended history, but a new history in terms of just having any type of funding to do anything, to practice, to even link up and play together. This is a very new squad.
Yeah, and they have a very interesting style on how they construct their squad. I mean, you made the dead on point about how their funding issues have really hampered any sort of internal development that they have within their country to like raise up and develop and kind of create a player pool that is sustainable and create those local player pathways. So they've instead really heavily rely. I mean, this is not an exclusive thing. There's obviously players from Jamaica who are on the team, but they've relied really heavily on the U.S. college system to develop their players, as well as recently they've actually brought a lot of English-based players into the fold and used the FA Women's Championship and even the FAWSL to an extent to bring in players into their roster as well. So I think that's a really interesting point. And this is a team that I think fits into this group really well. I think this offense specifically is going to be so fun to see against some of these other teams, the Frances, the Brazils, but also this team has a really strong history against Panama. You mentioned that they reformed in 2017 and then they competed in the 2018 CONCACAF Championship to qualify for the World Cup. Well, how they qualified was they played Panama in that third place match to qualify for the World Cup,
Hmm.
and they beat Panama in PKs to advance.
Yep.
So Panama does not like this team, and Panama is in this group. So I think that's significant as well. So a lot of really fun storylines surrounding this group, even after you look past the Francis and Brazils.
Let's talk about some of these players because there's more than just the headline player, but I have to mention, obviously, the one we all know is Khadija Shaw, star forward for Manchester City. Didn't get her dues, in my opinion, this past season in the WSL. She almost won the scoring title. Rachel Daly squeaked that through against her, but frankly, like, she was Man City.
Yeah.
And a player that obviously through that has much experience carrying a team on her back in terms of putting away goals. What do you think she can do here for this side? Obviously, it's a lot is going to ride on her and her goal scoring ability.
I mean, everything. I mean,
Yeah.
you said it yourself. I mean, she's everything for this team. Having her firing on all cylinders is paramount in order for this team to succeed. I think where this team will struggle is, are they going to be able to get her the ball and get her the opportunities that she needs to finish those chances? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
entirely sure. I think where this team needs to really establish itself is those alternative options. Obviously, we know Bunny Shaw is so strong and such a
Mm-hmm.
standout player, and on her own is incredible. But one of the things at Man City that also makes her even more successful is that defenses can't just ignore the likes of a Lauren Hemp, a Chloe Kelly. They have to commit bodies to those players as well. And so that does allow even more chances for Bunny Shaw to be one of the best strikers in the world. So who are going to be those players for Jamaica? Who is going to really step up and command attention from defenses that allows Bunny Shaw to be isolated in more one-on-one, even 1v2 situations? Even if it's Bunny Shaw against two center backs, I would still take those odds. So how are we going to see this team
Mm-hmm.
step up? Who is going to be that body? For me, in my mind, I'm looking at a player like Jody Brown. This is a
Mm.
player from Florida State, a really young, talented forward who is so much fun to watch. Listeners in the UK setting might be less familiar with this player, but on stateside, this is a player who has been a big name in the college game for a long time, playing at FSU, won national titles there. This is a player who, for how young she is a very complete player, very skillful, tactical, also brings a high level of athleticism. So can she be the one to step up and really draw some of that attention away? I'm also looking at a player like Shayna Matthews, someone who
Mm-hmm.
was maybe in the dark, not of her own fault, but just because she had three children. And so she was missing for a long time from the international game. Now has had a few injuries, I guess, with the Red Stars this season, but has really stepped up in big ways for the Red Stars and for this Jamaica side in the past few international windows. So
Yeah.
those
I'm
are
going to
two
throw in a
players
few
I'm looking
more
at.
too. I love those call outs. And I'm also going to throw in Kayla McKenna, plays for the Rangers in Scotland. Left forward, center forward, whatever you want, but she can put goals away. And that's somebody who I think can detract attention, at least detract attention, and potentially even help with some of the goal scoring ability, help Bunny Shaw with that. I'm also going to throw in potentially a Drew Spence.
Hmm.
This team, we're just throwing out these names. Like, I think that this is surprising for some people to hear how many how many Jamaican players are playing in top leagues around the world? Drew Spence, obviously a Tottenham player here, a midfielder. So she's not forward. It's not her necessarily her job to put those goals away, but Bunny Shaw needs to get the ball somehow. We saw, especially with City, it doesn't work when Shaw is working back. She'll do it. She'll come back into the midfield just to get the ball, but it helps to have somebody in that midfield, in that center midfield, like Drew Spence, who can really lock it down and play that connector piece. I think Drew Spence is going to be so key for Jamaica here, and I hope that she remains healthy going into this, and obviously that she makes the squad. It's worth saying that Jamaica has not.
Yeah, I mean, for Drew Spence too, it's for me a huge leadership perspective. This is a team, like you mentioned, who was without funding. They weren't allowed to really develop players, and so a lot of the players who would be at the stage where Drew Spence is now in her career, where she's a leader that really dictates play for her team. A lot of players who are at that age that would have been Jamaican players have left the game because
Yeah.
the infrastructure wasn't there. And so bringing in a player like her in the center of the park is huge in order to creating an effective system and really getting players with you on board to execute that system.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw in a final name here, and this isn't in terms of goal scoring, but Alison Swaby, she's a defender, currently on loan from Angel City to PSG. I think she's gonna be key in leading the Jamaican back line. But moving on from players and just to talk about Jamaica as a whole within the context of this group. Look, we all look at this group and we think, okay, Brazil and France, they're gonna battle for the 1-2 spot, and then who's going to get the third, and potentially could somebody challenge. And if it's somebody's going to challenge Brazil or France and maybe play the upsetter, it's going to be Jamaica. It's not going to be Panama. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And
Unfortunately.
so thinking of that, let's realistically, this is Jamaica's second ever World Cup, second consecutive World Cup. We just mentioned, how new really this squad is and how little time they have had and will have together, especially when you look at the comparison between that and what the France team will have together, what the Brazil team will have together. And we're talking about time together because of funding, because of opportunities to play together, all of that. Realistically, can this team actually challenge and potentially advance? They lost all three group stage games in 2019, one of them being to Brazil, 3-0. What are the odds here that this is actually a challenger, or is this a group where it's just going to go 1-2 and Jamaica and Panama, you had a great tournament. Maybe you get a point or two or three even against maybe each other, but you're not challenging. What are you saying to that?
So this hurts a little bit because
Yeah.
I would love nothing more than for this team to pull out some wins, upset some people, make some big splashes in this tournament and in this group. I just the likelihood of it happening for me is pretty low. France and Brazil are both two very well established programs, have a lot more competition for roster spots, players
Hmm.
playing in top leagues all over the world. I don't think that Jamaica necessarily has that same pedigree. And
Hmm.
of course, that's not everything. But when it comes down to a full, complete 90-minute performance, I think where Jamaica is going to get let down a little bit is perhaps defensively. I think that are they going to get some goals on you? Yes, but I think they're going to leak more goals than they're going to be able to put away against the top two.
Hmm.
And so I see them finishing third. I think the likelihood of them finishing third is pretty high. I don't see them
I
breaking into
agree.
the top two. And it's sad because I would love it.
Unfortunately, yeah. Unfortunately, I agree. And I think if they continue to grow, maybe in 4 years this conversation will be different. They're obviously not the equivalent. I can't equate them to like Brazil 4 years ago because Brazil has a strong, strong legacy with Marta and Cristiani for many, many years. But they actually hadn't invested in development of their senior squad until about 4 years ago when Pia Sunte came in, and we're about to come on to Brazil, so we'll get there. But I think people forget that about Brazil, and I can see Jamaica really trending towards that, but not this year. Considering how new they still are, considering how little time they'll have together, unfortunately, I agree. before we come on to Brazil, we have to touch on Panama. We just alluded to them, obviously, being, I think, a team that both of us maybe see coming in fourth. Panama, unfortunate in the 2019, did not qualify for the World Cup. This is their first ever World Cup as a nation. They got here through advancing into the playoff tournament in New Zealand, and they were able to qualify through that. Just so exciting for Panama. I'll say it again. I've said it before in this series. I love this expanded tournament because we're getting to see nations like Panama be here for the first time and come up against bigger, better competition. And that'll be great for them. And I think that that's really what this is going to be for Panama, is this is going to be a great moment for the nation, their first World Cup, and it's going to be a wonderful learning experience and hopefully a platform to catapult them to get more funding from their federation and grow. But I think that's really what this is for Panama.
Yeah, I think for most fans, this is one of the most unknown teams of the tournament, understandably, right? This is a tiny, tiny country in Central America, right? Having a team, a country like this trying to compete against your biggest juggernauts in the world is, I mean, it's what the World Cup is about, but at the same time, the expectations are not there for them to pull out any points, frankly, out of this group. But this is a team of fighters. This is a team, like you mentioned, 2018, the CONCACAF tournament. They fight their way through. I believe they beat Mexico to make it to the third place game, or to advance to the semifinals. They then lose, make it to the third place game, lose to Jamaica in penalties after extra time, and then they go to the Interconfederation playoff against Argentina and lose in aggregate there. Argentina then goes to the 2019 World Cup. So they miss out last round. This time, right, they fight through again. They are really good in CONCACAF qualifying. They come to the tournament and they fight their way through their group, and they end up making it to the Interconfederation playoff. They don't get a guaranteed spot. They were definitely an underdog going into the Interconfederation playoff. People from CONCACAF who have seen them play know that they have this fight in them, and I was really hoping, I thought it was very possible that they would make it through, but most non-CONCACAF based people that I was seeing in social media definitely did not have them coming out of that tournament.
Yeah.
They fight through, they make it, and they're here. And I think that all those experiences that they've had in this pretty much the same group, right? This team has been relatively unchanged over the last 3 to 4 years. All those experiences they've had and all those tough times they've faced together are significant. And who knows? And it's a World Cup tournament where it's just one game you play. Anything can happen. So we may see it, but the likelihood is low. I want to highlight,
I would agree,
really for me, the goalkeeper, Yeneth Bailey. I don't know how familiar our listeners are with this player, but this was a player I remember watching in the 2018 CONCACAF qualifying tournament. She actually took the Golden Glove for the whole tournament, and she played the U.S. And if it weren't for her efforts, the U.S. would have had maybe like 15 goals. She was absolutely unreal, standing on her head. And then I remember the commentators talking about how she had only been a goalkeeper for 1 year. She had been a midfielder or like a field player who a year ago her coach was like, well, we need a goalie, so you seem like you would be okay at it. Let's give it a shot. And 1 year later, she wins the Golden Glove for the CONCACAF qualifying tournament. Are you kidding me?
It's unreal. It's unreal. I mean, she had that similar performance in CONCACAF. Panama were in a difficult group. They had Canada, they had Costa Rica, and she had, again, one of the performances of her lifetime versus Canada in that group. Canada only won 1-0 versus Panama, for the record, and it was mainly because of her. So, I mean, obviously Canada, I think, is one of the bigger nations that they've come up against. I think this will be really their first time facing like a France. But I just love this storyline that, like, I just want to keep coming back to the storyline of Jamaica destroyed Panama's hopes in 2019 to advance to their first World Cup, and they're going to now face each other in the World Cup. And that is a really, really fun one. They're going to play in the second game. It'll be Jamaica versus Panama. That'll be game number 2. So really both of the second games in this group are going to be the ones to watch. They will be rivalry games at their finest. It'll be France versus Brazil, maybe potentially just to see who advances in the number 1 spot, which will be a blast. And, of course, Jamaica versus Panama. I'm excited to see this team play. You mentioned, we here in CONCACAF know that this team can be a blast to watch, but the rest of the world doesn't. And I'm excited for them to see it.
Yeah, I mean, these teams are teams that other non-CONCACAF opponents will underestimate and will think that they can just walk all over them. And that's the exact moment that you let your guard down, and a team like this will punish you. And I'm looking at an attacker like Marta Cox, who plays for Pachuca in Liga MX Femenil with some really really good players. She's teammates with like Yenny Hermoso and like Charlene Corral and like these really really good attacking players. So Marta Cox is someone who I'm definitely circling on this roster, who, if you underestimate her and their team, this is a player who can punish you.
And finally, we're going to talk Brazil, and I'm going to try my best not to monologue here, and I'm going to try my best to not continue to say, and I've been saying for 4 years that this team, but let's just take a moment, because we started this episode talking about the 2019 World Cup and Marta's speech, which if you're still listening to this episode and you don't know what we're talking about and you haven't gone to YouTube, again, pause, go watch, come back, because you will come back with tears in your eyes. And the fact, I just love still that you brought that up, Tim, because the fact that Marta really made that public declaration in 2019 when they got knocked out, and she said, we need to invest. There's not always going to be this star player, that star player, young players. Like, you can come and you can do this, and we can be, the great nation of Brazilian soccer that we all know Brazil to be. This team, oh my God, I have so much to say. This team truly, I believe, on any given day can beat anybody. We've seen now for the past 4 years, we've been saying that this squad is building and growing quickly, like so quickly. And to watch, it just, everybody needs to watch out for them in this 2023 World Cup. Truly. In the 4 years, they've taken themselves really from like a beatable team that has potential, and mainly you could call out Marta or Cristiani, and that was kind of it, but it was get one of them the ball, and that's all the commentators really know to talk about. And then they really started to invest, and I give so much credit, maybe more than I should give, but I give so much credit to Pia Sontag, who has done, for those who don't know, head coach of Brazil. She got hired immediately after the 2019 World Cup. Obviously, she has a history of coaching both Sweden and the United States. Pia has done such an incredible job with this squad. And I'm not just talking about like tactics or who's on the squad, but she has done the hard and dirty work of going and recruiting. She has done the work of building the pool that you need to become a successful team. And she's done that. She has gone into the US and recruited everybody she possibly could. And I give her just so much credit for where they are right now, from not only building the player pool to building the team into what they are, obviously tactically. I mean, this team has so many standout players. It's unbelievable, Tim. But
yeah,
I don't even know where to start with Brazil. Where do you want to start?
I mean, like you said, I want to start with Pia. This is a coach who came in and frankly did the exact same thing that she did when she entered the US picture.
Yeah.
Is the program was in turmoil. Same thing with the US. At the time the program was very unsettled, and all they really needed, the talent was there. Similarly with Brazil, the talent was there, but the program was just in such shambles that all they really needed was a level head, a calm presence to come in, like you said, make some of those tough choices, but be firm, and remind the players that this is about having fun. This is about enjoying one of life's greatest passions. This country as a team, for me, you will not find in the game a better balance of ability and passion, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at teams like maybe like the US or England. These are teams that are really good. Their ability is so high, right? But they're kind of like machines, right? They're like yeah, they love the game, but that you don't physically watch them and see the passion that they have for the sport. Like they love it, don't get me wrong, but when you watch this Brazil team play, it's just you can
Oh,
feel the passion dripping off the screen of the TV. It's just
mm.
so fun. And on top of
Oh,
that,
I have
the
chills again, Tim.
on top of that, the ability is so high. The
Yeah.
connections that they have, the individual creativity that they have, the having the willingness to just try some shit and see what happens. Like
Yeah.
it's this team
Yeah.
is so fun.
Yeah. And I bring it back to Pia. I'm not like I do because she was able to it's a hard balance and she needs to have be given due credit for the fact that she took the Brazilian flair that we all love and instead of just saying now we're going to be 11 individuals on the field and that's what's going to happen, which frankly historically that's what Brazil was, like wonderful individual talents, but there was no team involved. And she's taken that and she's been able to somehow meld that with a structure and a system, and now they play within the system, but the system allows for that individual talent, allows for that flair, allows for that creativity. And that is what's so fun about this team and why they are so explosive, because they are explosive. This team can score goals. I mean, I attribute a lot of where they are now and why they are still able to have that flair, but be a more competitive team to that mix of structure and creativity.
Yeah, I know you're dying to talk about players. So for me,
I'm not even talking about literally anything about Brazil, but
this
let's do players.
yeah, so for me, this team, I mean, you can't talk about this team without talking about Debinha. It has to be the first player that we talk
Yep.
about, right? Like this
Yep.
is a player who any club in the world would pay astronomical amounts of money to land this player on their team. Any club in the world.
I mean, we saw it in this past offseason.
And she would start and be the star of any team in the world, period, right? This is a player who, like I said, is just sees the
She's a
game different. She
baller,
just sees
man.
it differently.
Yeah.
She knows where to be. She knows when to be, where to be, if that makes sense. She
Yep.
she just sees the passing lanes before they're even there. She predicts so well, and then on top of it, her athleticism. She's just is the complete package. Such a fun
So
player.
I have to ask then about Debinha because we're on this, and I couldn't agree more. And it has felt in the world of the Brazilian soccer team that it was, Debinha was the worker, but Marta was the star, right? You mentioned we don't know if Marta's going to be on that plane. You know, Davina's 31 now, and I think she's playing the best soccer she's ever played in her life. Is this her squad now? And quite honestly, would it be better for Brazil to not bring Marta and just allow Debinha to fully step into that role as the captain, as the leader, and let it be really her team?
I disagree. I think that yes, Debinha is the star. This is her team, but I think leaving Marta at home is a mistake. I think that Marta is okay with the role that she has. She knows that she is no longer the sole face of this team. Historically, she will always be the face of this team. But in terms of this present moment, and you were seeing that this in Orlando as well, she's not playing like she is the whole team, and she's not trying to overdo it. She's not trying to do everything herself. She has definitely grown into this role of that she is now the supporter and she is here to help her team succeed. And I think that that's really significant. In my opinion, Marta is on the plane. I would definitely bring her. Do I think she's a 100% lock? No, because nobody is 100% lock. But if it
Well,
were me,
Dabinia is 100%
that's
low.
true. Yeah, Davinia is 100% lock. Like Sophia Smith for the US is 100% lock.
Right,
But
exactly.
if it were me, I would bring Marta. I think what she adds for this team and the experience and everything that she has done for Brazilian soccer are things that she can still support and provide for this team. So I would bring her.
I think it's interesting, and I think you really hit the most important point, which is if she is able to play that role, then she should be there. And if not, then quite frankly, I don't believe that she should. And I think that we're seeing that across a couple teams with somebody who has, how do I say this? Aged. I don't know. Somebody who is not who they used to be, but they can still provide that wisdom. Let's continue going through players and stop me for whoever you want to talk about. But we obviously have to talk about how Caroline, the young 23-year-old, plays for North Carolina. Oh my God, I'm so excited to see her on the world stage. She's going to tear it up. She is going to tear it up.
I knew you wanted to talk about her, and this is why I wanted to hit.
I've got like
This
10
is
other players on this list
this
I
is
want to
why
talk
I
about.
wanted to hit Dabinia first because I was like, if I don't get Dabinia out of the way at the beginning, Sarah is just going to babble on about Caroline for 20
No,
minutes.
Dabinia is my love. She's at the top of my list, baby. She's my girl. That she is the number one baller. But I think Caroline, I think some people might in the rest of the world be kind of blind to her. She's really floated under the radar somehow in the NWSL. So that excites me to see her on the world stage.
So my question for Caroline, though, this was a big conversation that we had in the past few months about her playing for
Yeah.
Brazil specifically. We know for North Carolina, she plays up top more, either centrally or more on the wing. But Pia was playing her more as a central midfielder, and not only a central midfielder, was playing her in a much more withdrawn, deeper role. And that was something that I was not as big of a fan of just because I felt like we were losing some of her bite in the attacking third. But I know you were really high on that because, and will agree that she was able to help break down high presses, be apply her creativity to the middle of the park in ways that we've seen other teams such as the US struggle to do. So what do you think about that? Where do you think we'll see her play?
I don't know. I guess it's kind of a toss up, but to be honest, I think that they could do well to have her in that midfield. To be Brazil is like so loaded on the attacking front, and if she's able to play well and keep her creativity, like maintain her creativity, but just bring it to the midfield and bring kind of like a calmness to it. And I think it's much needed, frankly. Like, is she stronger as an individual player in a more advanced position? Sure, potentially. But is this team stronger when she is in that more holding position? I think so. And I love the link up between her and Dabinia in the midfield. I think that's what is most key. You can't just have one player like being creative in the center of the park. You need two who are working together, and I think Dabinia specifically is stronger when she has that, like who are the superheroes? Something and Robin?
Batman,
Batman and
Robin? Are
Robin?
you kidding me right now? You forget Batman, but you remember Robin? What? Oh
I'm
my
sorry.
goodness. Wow, someone had a
Oh my
fun night last
god.
night.
I know my brain is sitting in mush right now.
I mean, so I've actually changed my tune on this. I was very against this, but after discussing this with you last time and thinking about this more and rewatching some clips and stuff, I think that Brazil as a team are so explosive moving forward
Mm-hmm.
when you have Caroline in that more reserved, withdrawn role. You watch their most dangerous attacks, and some of them start with Caroline's ability to, like I said, break down that pressure with the ball at her feet, but then advance the ball really quickly and
Mm-hmm.
really catch midfields and defenses backpedaling on their heels. And that's when you unstable defenses and create those really dangerous opportunities. So I would love to see her in that midfield role again. I think that that is an element that other teams in the world do not have and something that could really set them apart at this tournament.
I think you said it beautifully and more perfectly than I could have said it today. Uh, I'm going to let me just throw out a bunch of other names because we could spend like 10 minutes on all of these names. I just want to give people a real picture of, frankly, like the powerhouse that Brazil are starting to become. Adriana, she plays for the Pride. Ari Borges, Rafael Souza, hello. I mean, what an
Stud.
absolute star. She's going to be holding down that back line. JC, the Barcelona forward, and then Ludmila plays for Atletico Madrid. Look, stars,
Love.
absolute stars
Yeah.
all across the entire field. But I have to bring up, for me, the weak spot is the goalkeeper in Lorena. I just think that that's a massive weak spot for them, and it could cause them a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I 100% agree. When I'm looking at the four positional groups for this team, you had a goalkeeper in Barbara the last few international cycles who was the goalkeeper and the standout. She's no longer representing her country at the national international level, and that's definitely left a hole in her absence. They've tried a few different goalkeepers and they've settled on one, and frankly, I'm not convinced.
I'm not
The
convinced.
performances haven't been there, and all these players also play in the Brazilian league, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it just means that whoever they pick hasn't really had that same exposure to some of the caliber strikers that they'll come up against in this tournament. So this is a huge, huge question for me about this team is that will the goalkeeper be able to step up and provide this team with the support that it needs?
Yeah, I really think that that could be a make or break, and potentially the make or break when they play France, and in terms of like who's going to advance first and who's going to advance second. Um, Brazil, before we get into the matchups, because I'm really excited to talk about the matchups and who we think is going to go number one, because that really comes down to who we think is going to win that France Brazil matchup, and that's a really fun one. But they've had some interesting results recently. They beat Germany 2-1, which was great, and they narrowly lost to England on penalties. In the Finalissima, I thought they played that game really
Oh,
well.
that
They
was
played
such a
England
fun
really well.
game. That
It
was
was
so
such a fun
fun.
game. But quite honestly, I thought they really, sorry for my terminology, shit the bed in the She Believes Cup, and I was supremely disappointed in their performance across the board, all three games. They just barely beat Japan, and frankly, Japan outshot them. And if you're going to get outshot by Japan, something's going on. They lost to Canada 2-0 in the midst of Canada's battle with their federation. Canada was not playing like themselves. And then they actually played their best game against
The
the US and
US.
just narrowly lost to the US 2-1. But I was really underwhelmed and disappointed in their performance from She Believes. What do you think happened there? And do you think that that's kind of gone? That's out the door because they were able to get those two better results? Essentially, what do you think that they're carrying into the World Cup? Is that cause for concern?
I'm not concerned, no. I thought that they responded well, and I thought their worst game by far was against Canada. I thought against Canada and the She Believes they were very, very poor. They just had seems to have no cohesion and no ideas, which for them is so uncharacteristic. Like we mentioned, they're usually a team that's so filled with creativity and wants to try different things. So I thought that they responded well. I thought they were really good and really dangerous against the US. If I did not know the score or see the goals against the US, I
Mm-hmm.
probably would have pre predicted them as the winner based on the performances that I saw. I thought overall if you take away the goals, I thought that Brazil played better in that game. And I think that they will bring it together. I think that their players are growing to a point where they now understand how each other are playing. They've gotten some more additional experiences. More of them have gone overseas and are having really solid seasons. I'm looking at the NWSL specifically. Some of these Brazilians have been absolutely tearing up the league. You mentioned Adriana specifically is someone I want to just touch on again because this is a player for Orlando. Orlando is a franchise that has had some tough times. You know, they've had some highs, some lows, mostly lows. And I think Adriana has quietly been one of the best players in the NWSL this season. Her ability on the ball, her ability to connect with anybody around her has just been so impressive. So I think I think they can do it. And frankly, I have them topping this group.
Oh, we went there. Oh, wow, you have them beating
I do.
France.
I do. I have
How
them
do you
beating
see that
France.
game playing out? Like, why do you think that they're going to be able to beat France? Because they're such different styles. France is very meticulous. They obviously have some creativity up top, but Brazil obviously just brings that flair. I think this is going to be a very high scoring game, this France versus Brazil game. You have Brazil coming on top. Why?
I just think that Brazil has the next gear. You know, the they have the X factor. They have more. I mean, that's so vague and so non-specific. And
Yeah.
but I think they're so electrifying. And you mentioned that there are concerns that they can have some like shit the bed performances, but France is not immune to that either. You mentioned that they can be very
Yeah.
leaky defensively with goals. And I just looking at these two teams, it's for me a dream matchup. Just such a
Same.
fun clash of styles. Like you said, so likely going to be high scoring. I just see Brazil wanting it just a little bit more and really giving it everything that they have. So that's why I have them edging on top.
Dare I say this? I'm more excited for this game in terms of like group stage matches. I'm more excited for this than like the U.S. versus the Netherlands.
Oh, agreed.
This Brazil versus France matchup is going to be so much fun. I mean, I'll make my pick now. I'm tempted to say France just because you said Brazil, but I really actually I want to go with the upset. I have to go with Brazil. I also think that
The
potentially you don't
upset,
think that's
you
an
think that's
upset.
an
That's
upset?
absolutely an I do. I think that's an upset.
I
I think
don't
that
think that.
if you look at this group, people will say France should advance first.
See, I think that these teams, and maybe I'm just biased because I do love this Brazil side. I see them having equal chances of like I don't see anyone being a more likely or less likely to be expected to come out on top.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to allude to though is that the globally the French team in terms of the players are seen on a bit more of an elevated level just because of their club presence, you know, like Lyon and PSG are two major club players and the natural elevation that comes with a European based versus non-European based system and country, there tends to just be more attention on the European based pools. And so that definitely applies here. There's a lot less mainstream media surrounding Brazil than there is surrounding
Yeah.
France. And whether or not that's a good thing, that definitely plays a part.
Well said, honestly. And frankly, there's more visibility just because of the stars that they have playing in Europe as compared to some of the stars that Brazil have. I agree with you that I think Brazil are going to win. I think that they might be underestimated by France. And I think also that France is going to have a hard time against. We're talking so much about like the creativity of Brazil. I think that that'll be difficult for France to handle. It's going to be a shootout, but I agree that Brazil's going to take it. I think it's also worth noting that advancing in the number one position in this group will make a huge difference in terms of then the group that they play in the following knockout round. They'll play the winner of this group will play the second place of Group H, and Group H Germany will come on to them obviously in episode 8, but Germany I think will land on top, and the following teams are Morocco, Korea, and Colombia. And there's a big disparity between a Germany, who frankly are one of the favorites to win, and the rest of those three teams. So advancing first in this group will really set you up well. Advancing second, you will most likely be going through Germany.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you make a fantastic point. No one wants to go against Germany in the round of 16. Like,
God no.
yeah, like absolutely not. So that's
But
a huge point.
also, either one of those teams against Germany, I'm going to absolutely love to watch.
You guys, we might be team no sleep. Team no sleep. Like
Truly.
this could be just terrible for my overall health, overall work performance. You know, like I might be an absolute zombie from July 20th to August 20th. Time will tell.
I think that I will, because we're in for some really fun, really spicy matchups. All right, so we agree it's going to go Brazil and then France, and I think that we actually agree then Jamaica, then Panama. This is the first episode where we have no disagreements in terms of how the order falls.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow, go team.
Anything else to add, Tim, before we close out this group?
I just have to say, I know we mentioned in some of our past group analyses that Ireland is a team that we are so excited for. But in terms of other teams that are non-US, non-England, and perhaps I would throw non-Australia in there, just being like the home team with a lot of players who play in the US and England historically. Brazil might be one of my absolute favorite teams in the history of women's football. Like, I love this team so much. Like, I'm so excited. I hope that they do so well as Ireland. These are two teams that I am just so interested by and so excited for. So, cannot wait.
Couldn't agree more. And for us here at the Women's Soccer Show, of course, this is crossover with Find Her Football. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back next week with Group G: Sweden, South Africa, Italy, and Argentina.
Ooh, interesting.
So stay tuned. We'll be back next week, everybody, for the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Sarah.
I'm Tim.
Thanks, everybody.